Come closer to me. Come close to me, baby. Let your love hold you. Though this world is crazy, what's it without you? Nothing, nothing, nothing. Know what you think and you run my life. You're right. No.
You're right.
Okay.
As loud as them boogers is when we sleeping and everything else, they can handle a little bit of talking. Y'all better hear this too.
Okay. So this is things we're learning. So I guess we should begin at the beginning of the second marriage. Same people, just different.
Very different.
Phase of the story.
Very different.
So there's this woman, I think her name is Esther Perel. So long-term relationships and marriages, and she says at the end of this wonderful TED Talk she gives that in our lifetime, most of us will have 2 or 3 relationships, and some of those will be to the same, sometimes they'll be to the same person. So for Will and I, we had one marriage. It lasted for time. So, I don't know, that gets complicated, and we'll get into that as we move through this series. We'll talk more about how that went. Yeah, it's, now we can laugh because we've done a lot of work. We are in our second marriage now, together, to one another, moving mindfully through it. We have a greater level of consciousness, a greater level of individual self-awareness, and also couple awareness. Our first marriage was sweet and good and beautiful.
Fairy tale-like.
Fairy tale-like, you think?
In some ways.
And then that marriage died, and it was very sad and painful and devastating.
And the second marriage began, and it has been fairy tale-like also.
Mm-hmm. So the other part of what Miss Perel says, I hope I'm saying her name right. The other part of what she says is she affirms that when something happens, something big and devastating happens in your marriage, and something big enough to kill it, in fact, 2 people have to decide that they'll accept that as being the truth, and that they'll work together to create a new relationship. And so Will and I have been working on creating our new relationship after we've gone through a lot of devastation. We had about, 3 years of 2 years, 2 to 3 years
3
of being kind of in limbo in between our first marriage, mourning that whole thing, figuring our individual selves out, and figuring couple out. And we have been in about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, into our new relationship. And so we wanted to talk about that, what it takes. And
how long did you just say?
1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
Almost 2 years into our new anniversary, or our new relationship. So we're not quite to our second year and our second new anniversary. But we've learned a lot in the last several years. Yeah. So we want to talk about it because we meet a lot of people who also have dealt with devastation of whatever kind in their relationship. Some people deal with infidelity, they deal with sickness, they deal with death, they deal with broken trust, they deal with one partner learning something about themselves that they didn't know before, that, could make or break the agreement that they had prior. Break the agreement in most cases, or present a huge impasse. Yeah. We've done a lot of work, and we've learned a lot. So much so that we're here today and able to look at each other without hate, without fear, without whatever things. I know that I had a lot of hate and a lot of fear and a lot of unforgiveness and a lot of resentment. You have resentment. We both have had things to heal. And also here we are, having done a lot of healing and still journeying onward together as a couple, cultivating couple deliberately and on purpose.
Yeah, I think some of my stuff was like, is pride and shame and resentment towards you, but shame was in the way of healing. Where anger was kind of in your way at some point. So I would say something like, I don't know that I didn't have any anger towards you in that way. There was resentment towards you for reasons, but stuff that was in the way of the relationship for me was stuff like pride and shame, I think.
So we're going to talk in this series of videos about the journey that we've made, our personal journey, and we're going to offer some resources. We're going to offer some of the most helpful things to you, again, as just an offering, because these are things that we have learned and are still learning, and are hoping that in our being open and living our story out loud, that we can offer support and guidance to other people who may be coming down the same kind of road, simultaneous to us or behind us.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. If you appreciate what you've heard and you want to hear the rest of this series, come find us at our website, www.thereallifejoneses.com. We're also on Instagram as The Real Life Joneses, all one word. When you get there, click on the links for Mindful Marriage, Things We're Learning. See you over there.